Baldur's Gate 3 just got some further delays, which has some people worried, but we'll get into that. We have a couple rule changes from BG3 to 5th edition. We also gotta talk about the Battle of the Wiki pages. A voice actor for Tav reveals even more information. We also have some new tools that you can use now and for launch day, and some other more tame details. We got a lot to talk about. What's up, World Streamer? Back in the video, we're checking out all things Baldur's Gate 3. Okay, so first of all, let's just get into the major news on those delays, because I know some people are probably curious on that. But essentially, the review copies got delayed. Now, essentially, the review copies were delayed by 2 days for the press release. Essentially, the people that review games and review copies of the game got delayed for 2 days. So those actually will be going out tomorrow on the 30th. Now, there are some people worried about that are hoping that might be a bug issues or that there's going to be other problems with release. That's why they're delaying it. However, the original source for when the review copies were going to go out was actually just somebody random, and it wasn't actually one of the Larian people. Apparently, it came from Jason Schreier, who was very connected with the industry, as we know. However, maybe he got this detail wrong. Maybe something changed along the way. Maybe they're getting last-minute touches and stuff like that and getting things fixed. There is a comment here like this one getting some flashbacks when DSO2 launched, where half the game, or at least the first half of the game, was nearly bug-free. But the second half was riddled with bugs, not just texture pop-in bugs, but save file corruption, breaking game files. It didn't last very long, but the first couple weeks were rough for speedrunners and reviewers. It's definitely understandable and definitely worrisome, although I will say if we get as much content as we had in Act 1 for the rest of the acts, at least for during early access, I'm pretty satisfied with it, although yeah, this is more so have to do with the game-breaking bugs and maybe save file corruptions. I would constantly be saving. I save nearly for every interaction that I have in the game, or at least I did in the early access. I was constantly saving. I probably had over 100 or 200 saves in just the first area in my first playthrough. So yeah, I'm constantly saving, and that is from me just playing other RPGs and knowing that save file corruption can happen or goofy stuff can happen in the game. So I would just most likely just try to keep up with saves, save as much as you can, and yeah, probably the first act will be fine, but it probably is going to be more serious during the second act. There also is some worries that reviewers won't be able to get to Act 3 in time unless they do rush. And because there's been such a big topic on the review stuff, I actually did apply to get a review copy, or at least I just did. Not really sure if it's going to go through, and probably won't. But if I do, I'll try to get to Act 3 at least and try to push there, and at least so I can have that for my review. On one hand, I don't really want to rush the game, but if I do get a review copy, that would be kind of awesome. I guess we'll just have to wait and see for launch. I'm sure it'll go over fine. There probably will be some bugs in Act 2 and Act 3, kind of like it was with Elden Ring, just a little rough on launch day. There usually always is, and yeah, just hopefully it's fixed before people get to Act 2 and 3, or at least late game. Now, we do have the Battle of the Wikis, and why do I say that? Because the main wiki right now, when you search on Google, is actually run by an independent streamer. It's not a community-run wiki, and if you know anything about the guy, probably don't want to visit his wiki, as there is several things like he embeds his stream on there. He also does it for other websites, and yeah, a lot of people on Twitch don't really like that. I can definitely understand why, so I think it is best for us to use the community wiki instead. And actually, the guys that make the community wiki actually hit me up so that I can bring it closer to attention to you guys. So please, if you can, try to use this community wiki. We're gonna want it, trust me, over the other one. We're definitely gonna want this wiki to be the main forefront when people look it up, because as of right now, they're kind of getting buried on the Google search results. I've definitely experienced that here on YouTube, getting buried sometimes, or my content just not getting pushed. So I definitely understand the frustration, especially when it's this wiki versus the other one. I'm gonna have a pinned comment with this wiki down below, also in the description. So please try to use it instead, because honestly, this is gonna be the one that fans are gonna want to go to, and especially if people are just Googling it, they're gonna be wanting to use this wiki. But that leads me to this on the wiki. They actually have a D&D 5e rule change. Essentially, they have the 5th edition and the BG rule changes of what's different to the game comparative to what is different in the 5th edition. There's actually a ton of stuff here, and it's actually a decent read-up with all the different systems. One of those main things is that the level cap is now 12 for BG3. There's a bunch of things here on conditions, equipment, action economy, and even spell casting, and the fundamental changes, which is probably the most useful. So yeah, if you're curious on the rule changes, I'll have a link down below to this too. Now, we had a fan here that actually created a BG3 character builder, and this is definitely going to become useful for build guides and things of that, especially if you don't want to use other items to raise your character's level. I think this is going to be awesome for building and kind of showcasing builds. As well, for me, when I do my build guide on August 2nd, I can actually share this link with you guys, and that way, if you don't want to watch through the full video, or if it's kind of complex and you want to kind of have something off to the side, I can actually share the entire build with you through this link. That's going to be a great tool for me, and I think it will be pretty good too for players that just want to pre-plan their build and kind of look through it. So I have a link down below to this as well. Now, one of Tav's voice actors, or the default player, essentially if you ever see the word Tav, it just means the word default player. player. It's the default name that the player shows up with if they forget to change it. But they revealed on a YouTube comment that they have 4 digits worth of lines, which is absolutely insane for a player character to have that many dialogue lines. Definitely showcases there is a ton of content, especially with the actual individual player. It's a ton of voiced lines, and yeah, that 17,000 ending thing is starting to look pretty real. Now on their TikTok, they actually revealed the Beastmaster companions that get armor as well. So there's a bunch of pictures here from the TikTok showing the Beastmaster companions. There's a few different ones, and some are being showcased with different armor sets. Overall, these look really, really cool, and the Hunter/Ranger class is going to get some awesome stuff. It almost makes me want to play it to capture one of these and kind of have a beast with you. Although with my Wizard and Warlock, I can technically use those summons, but this is pretty cool for the Beast Companions and actually having full armor sets and everything tailored to them. I think that's really, really cool for a class to get this kind of unique stuff there. Now, I know I went over the karmic system last time. Some people were a little bit confused, and there was a bunch of stuff there. There's also some people that are confused in the Reddit post here. There's some confusion with the whole system. I know I was having a little bit of trouble digesting it as well. Essentially, you are less likely to have bad streaks in a row. So if you do roll low on your streaks, essentially it is going to be less likely to keep occurring. This also does happen for your enemies, and that was the point of like your enemies gain 400%. Although they did debunk that, and it wasn't really 400%, and it was very scenario based. I'm probably going to turn it off as well now that I'm reading more into it, as it does seem kind of cheesy for both sides. And if you can sort of game the system, or at least know how to gear out your character and do different things, then you shouldn't really need to use it. But yeah, it essentially makes you succeed more on attacks, saving throws, and ability checks. You might want to keep it on because of that, or keep it off, but it is one of those things that is kind of going to be a huge debate on launch day. Now, I went over that worksheet last time that you could turn into your company for a day off, the little kind of funny item there. And funnily enough, the CEO actually tweeted saying, "So the owner of the bar which we rented for BG3 release just let us know that one of his employees handed him the form to allow him to take off time to play BG3. You're sabotaging our release event." And the CEO tweeted saying it doesn't get better than this. Seems like everybody around this release is having a lot of fun, and I do enjoy that. It is kind of crazy to think that we're narrowing down to this big release. With only 5 days left with everything, it is getting a little chaotic with everything, especially in the Reddit. Again, in case you guys weren't here, I'll put up the global launch times again, and it is 9 a.m. Pacific time. We'll have to wait and see on everything else with the review copies and all that stuff, especially with everything going on now and people getting it on Sunday. And again, if you can, please be sure to try to check out that wiki page, or at least when you're looking up stuff for the wiki, try to use that one instead. Again, it is community run and has a bunch of stuff there. Other than that, we'll have to wait and see for everything. I'll probably run a few polls in a couple of days to look out for those if you're interested. Kind of gauge some different interest on stuff, especially different builds and things like that. Yeah, that does about cover for today's video. If you'd like, and subscribe, and until the next one, deuces.